This
Continue what we
conference will
have
now be recorded.
today. We'll continue what we have left yesterday, right? So let's recall what we have learned yesterday. Is like we learned like what is software testing. So before that, we learned what is software. So software is nothing but what you see into your devices, whatever the application you see, you use. That is all software. All right. So we discuss about the example of the software, that is calendar. So calendar is a software. So we use to check the dates and the days. It is that is the purpose of the calendar. So so and after that we have learned SDLC life cycle, which is nothing but a software development life cycle. In there we have discussed like what are the phases are there uh, in in that life cycle during software development. What phases you have to pass before you develop any application, right? Before any developing any application or any software. All right, so let's recall that one also again. So in SDLC you have first is requirement, gathering the requirements, and then after that we have a design. After getting the requirements, uh, we create a design, we check design what will suit for how we want to show in our application. After that we have a development phase where we develop the application. All right, and then after that we test that application, and then we deliver the application. That's all. This is what the SDLC about. Now today we are going to discuss about the software testing life cycle. So pay attention on here. What is SDLC? So it is nothing but a part of SDLC. So in software development life cycle, we have a testing phase, right? So that testing phase is a software testing life cycle. So we again, while going while doing testing, before doing testing, we have to uh, uh, get to know about how the this life cycle works. Okay, so when you have an application, right, so you have a requirement, right? So when you develop an application, you get the requirements from the client, and that requirement you have to analyze first. Like let's say an example of you can say Gmail. All right, so Gmail is an application. So let's assume like there's a client who wanted a Gmail to be built. Or yesterday we took an example of a mobile application, right? So let's take that example that will make more sense here. So let's take an example of mobile application. They wanted a e-commerce application, and they wanted to sell mobile, right, in that application. So what we do is like we take the requirements from the client, right? So before developing, we take the requirements what they want in their application, then we decide the design, then we decide how we will develop, then we develop that application, and then we test it, right? So here again the same process you will follow. You will you already have the requirements, right? So in that requirements, what you will do, you analyze the requirements. Let's say customer says or client says that they want in their application like there should be a login page, there should be a register page, there should be a home page. Like that you get the requirements. Okay, so in that requirements, what you do is like you analyze them. Like, yeah, there is a login page. What fields are required there? So what are the requirements from the client? What they want in the login page? So example like they want email address, they want password, they want a login button. That's it. That's what they want. So what you will do, you will analyze that. Yeah, in the application we will be getting uh, email field, we'll be getting password field, and then we will be getting the login button, right? So likewise you analyze the requirements. Okay, all right. So after that you plan your test. All right, so what how you will plan it? So test planning is nothing but you will check like what is in a scope. Let's say there should not be an extra feature. Like let's take an example like if the if the requirement is to create a login or to design and create a develop a login page. All right, so in that login page there should not be anything else apart from the username field, password field, and login button. If there is so that will not be that will not be under the scope. All right. So that's how you plan. Before after requirement analysis you have to plan like how you will be testing this application or that page, particular page. So that time we do a test planning. All right. After that we develop test cases. Okay, test cases is very important for the testers. You should know like what are test cases, what are test scenarios. Test scenarios, let me give you some example of test scenarios and test cases. Let's say you are uh, you have an application and now you have to design now you have to draft test cases for login page. All right. So before drafting test cases you will analyze like what kind of scenarios user can go through from the login page, right? So you'll see that the scenario will be like whatever the URL is there. Let's say you will be seeing a URL. I'll show you some example here. You see this URL here. This is app go to URL. This is called URL. So you'll get some xyz.com URL. All right. So that xyz.com is working or not. That you will check first, right? So without URL you cannot go further. You cannot open the login page. So for that reason you will be check. That will be your first scenario. Yeah, if you have a URL, so that means yeah, and it is working. So that will be your first scenario. Then after that what you will check like yeah, there is a login page, right? There should be a login page. Yes. And third scenario will be like after you log in, after you giving username and password and clicking on the button, so the user should able to log in successfully. That will be one scenario. Okay, that will be one scenario. A user is able to log in successfully. Third is fourth is what else is there, like you can check the uh, networks in different networks, like some might be using 3G, some might be using 4G, some might be using 5G. So that scenario also, okay, if my internet is slow, how my that login page will behave, that you have to check. All right. Let's say if you have fast internet, how my login page will behave. Is it going to be fast? Is it going to be slow? That you will be checking. That will be one scenario. All right. After that, you can check also like if there are multiple logins, like let's say in 1 minute or in 1 second, there are hundreds of logins are coming. All right. So that time, what happens is like that page should not get crashed, right? That time that page should not get crashed. That will be one scenario. All right. So this is how you have to think about test scenarios. All right. And don't get confused with test cases. All right. Scenarios are one liner and test cases are comes under the scenarios. All right. So one scenario can have multiple test cases, but one test case cannot have multiple scenarios. This you have to remind, that you have to learn by heart. All right. Scenario is one liner which you it's like a user story. If you uh, if you have a user and you have to think about like a user when you are planning or drafting test scenarios and test cases. All right. So test cases will be like let's say validation part, verifying part. Let's say the URL, if you checking the URL, our first scenario was a URL. So let's say let's assume like you have given some. I'll write here an example. Let's say xyz.com is your URL. All right. This is your URL. Now think about it, like that this URL you have to test. If I give dot xyz1.com, so will it redirect to our application? Will it redirect to the login page? No, it should not. So that will be one test case. That will be one test case, like you passing a invalid inputs to any field. That will be your one test case. So verify URL, with invalid inputs. That will be your first test case for that scenario, URL scenario. Let's take an example of another, like you have a username field, you have a password, you have password field, and you have a login button. All right. So in username, let's say you wrote some name called John. All right. And password you have given some John at 123. Okay. And now you're clicking on the login button. In this button, you're clicking on. So if the John is registered with the application, then only that login page should uh, that the person should able to log in successfully. Otherwise, it should throw some error, right? So this is how you have to think about while you are testing the application, or while you are drafting the test cases. You have to think like that. You have to think logically. You have to think like a user. Okay, if I do this, so what will happen next? If I do that, what will happen next? That's how you have to think before writing test scenarios and test cases. All right. So this is very, very important question. If you happen to give an interview, so this will be your basic question. They might be asking you this question, and they might be uh, they will check your approach. All right. So how your approach towards the application, how you think. So this is very, very important test case and test scenario, because with test cases and the test scenarios, we are going to automate the same thing. We are going to automate the same thing in automation. So before that, for that reason, you have to know what is scenario and what is test cases. All right. So this is test case. So we'll discuss later about how you write test case document, how what test case document consists. Like there will be a test case ID, there will be a description, there will be steps, there will be a test data, there will be actual result, there will be an expected result. Your expected result nothing but a requirement. You will get some requirement, so that requirement will be your expected result. And then after that you will give a status, like if, let's say, the John is registered into the application and now he is trying to log in. So John is, when he is trying to log in, he is getting error that the John is not any error, any kind of error he's getting. So he won't that will be your, that test case will be your failed test case. Like you are passing the right value, but a system is responding error message. So that time what will happen is like that test case will got failed. Okay. So this is test case, and this is the idea of test cases and scenarios, test scenarios. After that, we have an environment setup. Let's say environment is nothing but like we have a separate environment, development environment, testing environment. All right. So you will be testing in a test environment. There you might be having a local environment. Okay, you will be testing in your local machine. So you will set your machine as a server, and you will be testing in there. Second is like there will be a staging environment that will be provided by the uh, your product manager or your client, or your maybe the developers. They'll provide you some testing environment, staging environment. There you can test the application. That will be like similar to the real-time environment. All right. And then there is a production environment. The production environment is nothing but the user environment, user server. All right. So these are the types of environment, and that then you have to decide that, then that time you have to decide which environment you are testing. All right. After that, what you will do is like, once you analyze the requirement, you have planned for your testing. Let's say like you have a requirement like login page. So you have to plan like, yeah, we have all data, everything we have to test this login page. So you will plan that one. Then after that, you will plan like, yeah, we will be writing this much scenario, we will be covering this much scenarios and this much test cases. So and you will set up the environment. Okay, we will be testing only in a stage environment, let's say in testing environment, you can say. So in testing environment, we are going to test this application. So after that, you will be executing your test cases, you will perform the actions into the application. You'll get some URL, you'll checking that URL, is it redirecting to the login page, or then after that you will giving some negative values, positive values to the fields, to the login page, whatever you see in their page. So then after that, clicking in login page, if you are getting successful message, or everything is working fine, that is your text execution. And after that, once you find all the bugs, there you will find the bugs. If you are not logging successfully, that will be a bug. If the user is already present in the application or the server or the database, all right. So if it is not, so it should throw some error. It should throw some error, yeah, you are not registered or something like that. So that time you execution, that time you will be raising the bugs against the testing, all right. And after that, once you testing is done, you will be doing the test closure, all right. So this is nothing but a software testing life cycle. So let's repeat this again. So what is software testing life cycle? It's like you are analyzing the requirements first, then after that, according to the requirements, you will be planning your test, how you will be how you going to test the application. And after that, you will start drafting the test cases and test scenarios. And after that, you will be setting up the environment, which environment you're going to test the application. And then you will execute the testing. And then after that, after completion of testing, you will send the test closure to your client or to the manager or whatever your reporting person will be there. You will be sending them that, yeah, you have finished the testing, all right. So now let's understand what are the levels of testings. So there are four levels of testing. One is unit testing, second is integration testing, third is system testing, and fourth is UAT testing. UAT is nothing but user acceptance testing, all right. So this is very important. Again, this is very important because you are going to you are going to work around this all four levels. That's it. When you become a tester, when you join any company and you get a task, so you will be working around here only: unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and UAT testing. So let's understand one by one each of the term, like what is unit testing. So unit testing is nothing but a module. I'll show you some uh, what is unit testing example here. I'll show you some example. History. Uh, I wrote somewhere here, I guess. All right, this is your application. All right. So let's say, what is unit testing? Let's understand what is unit testing. So this login page, you are into the login page. So this is one module. It is a one module. You see there is a register page. Register. This is second module. This is one more module. All right. So when you are testing, when you are doing a unit testing, so unit testing is nothing but you are testing a single module. You're not doing, you're only focusing on the particular module, particular page. All right. So let's say this is a login page. Unit testing is nothing but testing a single module. Let's take another example to understand this more uh, more clear. Like let's say you have used Gmail, right? So in that Gmail you have inbox, right? So that inbox is a module. It's a module. So when you are testing the inbox, so that is unit testing. If you're testing a single module, that is called a unit testing. So you will be testing only this page. You will not be checking like what happens next or how it is integration. You will not be checking the integration of this pages. All right, you will be checking only this. So that is unit testing. So what is, let's understand what is integration testing. So integration testing is just I give you an example of Gmail, right? So in Gmail you have tested inbox. So that is one module. So you tested a inbox. So that is one module. So now if let's understand like with inbox what is integrated, what other modules are integrated, what modules are integrated. One second, yeah. Hello, sorry, there was a disturbance. Yeah. So let's understand what is integration testing. So integration testing, I was giving an example like let's say you're in inbox, you're using inbox, you have seen a inbox in Gmail, right? So it is integrated. If you delete any message, if you happen to delete any message from the inbox, where it will go, it will go to bins, right? So that inbox, that message, that message, if you delete that, that will go to your bin box, right? So that bin box is integrated with inbox, right? So that bin is integrated with your inbox. So if you delete anything, any message from the inbox, it will go to bin. And when you are checking the bin, so it that deleted message should present, that deleted message should present into the bin, right? So that you have to check. This is how you do integration testing. All right, let's say you're checking inbox, that is a single module you're checking, that is a unit testing. If you're checking that inbox, an inbox with other modules, that which is dependent with the first module, so that is a integration. So integration is nothing but each mo uh, each uh, each module is connected to each other. All right, so that is integration testing. All right, so there are two approaches to test the integration. The one is incremental, second is decremental approach. So incremental is nothing but top to bottom approach, where you will be testing like, see, you have tested inbox, you have inbox, you deleted one message from inbox and it is going to bin. So that will be your top to bottom approach, right? So yeah, it is going to bin. You that you have checked, that is fine. Now what second will be your bottom to up approach. So bottoms up approach is nothing but like from bin you should able to recover that deleted message, and that will go to the inbox. So that will be your bottom up approach. So this is, there are two ways, there are two approaches in integration testing. So first is incremental and second is decremental. All right. So in both this unit testing and integration testing called as white box testing. All right. White box testing is done by the developers. So when the developers develop the application, they do the unit testing and then and they also do the integration testing. Now c- comes let's come to the system testing. What is system testing? It comes under the black box testing, where the testers play an important role here. All right, so what they do is in system testing is like, we have user interface testing. All right, we have user interface. System testing is nothing but whatever the application we get, we have to test whole that application, right? So there will be a UI. You will be checking the UI, how the designs are there, how it is looking. Any spelling mistakes you will check. You will be checking the logos. You will be checking the alignments. That is comes under the UI. All right, so that is user interface testing. Second comes is functional testing. All right, what is functional testing? Let's we discuss what is functional testing. You have a username field, you have a password field, and you have a login button. So now when you do UI testing, you will be checking, yeah, username spelling is correct. All right, password name is correct, and now the login button is there. So you've done the UI testing. Now what you will do, now you want to check the function of this application. All right, so this login button is working fine or not. You have to check, like, yeah, if I enter username and password and I hit the login button, it will it will taking you to the next step or not. So that will be, you will be checking that. All right, and so the function that is called a functional testing. If you enter username, if you enter password, so as a user, y- you have to think as a user perspective. So user should able to log in successfully, and it takes you to the home page or whatever the page there will be, right? So generally from the login page you land on the home page, right? So if that is taking you to the home page, that is a functional testing. All right, so what is non-functional testing? Non-functional testing are those testing, let's say, uh, you want to test the load of the you want to check the load of the application. If you put a load on the application, so how it will behave. If you happen to check the performance of the application, how it is performing, is it fast, is it slow, like that. If you are testing that one, that will be non-functional testing. Third is like security testing. All right, secure what is security testing means, if your application is safe or not. if in if let's say any hacker or any attacker tries to go into the application without login, and there will be any security breach is happening into the application, so that thing comes under the security testing, that are called as non that are the part of non-functional testing. All right, and fourth is usability testing. What is usability testing? So usability testing, it is self-explanatory. Like, user is able to uh, use the application very smoothly. All right, it should be not like your username is written somewhere here at the left top corner, or the password field is right top corner, like that. So that will be not a user friendly application, right? So you have to think in that way also. Okay, so generally user should able to see everything on same page, right? So that username and password, you'll be seeing an alignment and everything. Usability, so how user can use that application, how smoothly he can use the application, that you have to check. That is called a usability testing. Now fourth level of testing is user acceptance testing. What is user acceptance testing means, whatever the testing you perform above, like unit testing you performed in your application, integration testing you performed in your application, you did the system testing. Now you want to release this application, right? So you want to release, yeah, you as a tester you said like, no, I have checked the login page and it is working fine, it is absolutely fine, all smooth, all validations are passed, everything is like fantastic, it is good to go, user can use it, this application. That time you will be sitting with the user, and they will perform testing with you, and you will be showing that this is uh, w- uh, the testing you have done in your application. They will test by themselves, and they'll be checking like how the application is working. And that time you will be that time, if they pass the application, if they say yeah, that application, they acknowledge or they are good with your work, so they will be saying yeah, we accept this application. So that is a user acceptance application. So, and one more thing we're going to cover is bug. What is bug, defect, or error? What is the difference between bug or error? So bug, is nothing but there is a requirement and it is not something which is not meeting the requirement. Let's say requirement says like username field should be not more than 16 characters. All right. So let's say this is the requirement. All right. But when you are testing this application, you entered more than 16 characters and it is accepting the 16 character. It is accepting more than 16 characters. So that time you will call it as a bug. All right. That will be called as a bug because the requirement says it should not exceed 16 characters, but it is exceeding when you are testing and you are giving more than 16 characters. So that time that will be your bug. This is how you identify the bug. The bug you can identify only through the requirements. All right. And let's understand what is error. Error means, let's say you have provided an email, sorry, URL. You have provided an URL and you hit on that URL. So you get some errors like 404 error, 50 501 error, 500 error, 404 not found errors. So those errors are nothing but that URL is not callable from the server. All right. So that is an error. All right. So this is the difference between bug and error. So we'll discuss this later in a brief when once we start testing, once we start automation. So you will be testing the application, and then you will understand more in brief like what is bug, what is error, and how to identify bugs and errors. All right. Okay. So for today's we we are good enough today. So if any question is there, you can ask me now.